Leading up to the release of iPadOS 18, I wanted to share with you all how I am productive on iPadOS. Basically, some tips and tricks that I use to get my work done and get other things done using an iPad. Now, we are a few weeks away from iPadOS 18, and the iPad that I have here, the iPad I use for all my videos and stuff like that, is running iPadOS 18, but most of these tips will still work on iPadOS 17. There are a couple of things that are focused on 18, but I will call those out in this video when we get to those. This video is sponsored by Anker. Let's get into it. First up is multitasking. Multitasking is the ability to have more than one app or window open at the same time. We're kind of in this weird time with iPadOS because we have two versions of multitasking. The default version of multitasking on the iPad is called Split View. You can drag and drop apps from the dock, Spotlight, the app library, wherever to add stuff to it. You can either drag apps to the left or the right side of the iPad screen to add an app there. Now, the key is you already have to have an app open to put an app into Split View. Now, with Split View, it doesn't just have to be a 50-50 view. You can slide the indicator either to the left or the right side to make one app bigger and the other app smaller. You can also swipe at the top of an app to swipe it to the left side, and then it'll swap the app that was on the left side to the right side. When dragging an app to add it into Split View, if you don't push it to either the left or the right side, if you drop it in the center, you're going to get this really skinny column that hovers over the current app. This is called slide over. Slide over is great for referencing apps or having like a music playback app or a podcast app or something that you just like want to quickly interact with and then dismiss it. You can dismiss it by swiping right at the top to hide it to whatever side that it's on. By default, when you add an app into slide over, it'll be added to the right-hand side. You can swipe it to the left to move it to the opposite side of your iPad. After you've hidden slide over, you don't have to always add the app back into it. You can just swipe in from the right-hand side and it'll pull up whatever was in slide over. You can swipe at the bottom of either your main app or slide over, and you could go through your recent apps. Now, if you kind of pull up and over a little bit with that app, you will get into the multitasking view. There is both a multitasking view for your main app, so the full screen app or the apps that are in split view, or there is a separate multitasking view for the apps that are in slide over. If you swipe up on the slide over app and get to that multitasking view, it's its own multitasking view. You don't see any of the main apps. But if you swipe up on your main app, so either the apps that are in split view or your one full screen app, you can see all of your recent apps that were in the main view. But if you go over to the right side, you will see everything that was in slide over as well. This video is sponsored by Anker. This is the Anker Prime charging station. This is a 250 watt 6-port GAN desktop charging station. It can handle charging any of your tech devices. The Anker Prime charging station has 6 ports, 4 USB-C and 2 USB-A. It can output for a total of 250 watts shared between all 6 ports. It uses Power Delivery 3.1 technology. What this means, for example, you could take a 16-inch MacBook Pro, charge it from 0 to 100% within 2 hours. I've been using this as a way to charge up my iPad, iPhone, and other devices I have here as fast as possible. In fact, this thing even handles charging my Legion Go around 90 watts, which is faster than the charger that it comes with, and if you've ever used the Legion Go, you know this thing takes forever to charge up. On the charging station itself, it has a 2.3-inch LCD display. This will show real-time charging stats. On the side, there is a dial. You can use this to select a specific port. When you select the port, you can turn on priority charging for this as well. This way, if you're maxed out at 250 watts of output, you can specify which device should get more power. But if you want even more control, you can go into settings and choose between different modes. There is port priority, low current mode, dual laptop mode, or an AI intelligent mode. Personally, I just leave it on the AI mode and let the device figure out how much power it needs to go where. The other product I have here is the Anker Prime USB-C cable. This is an ultra durable braided cable that supports up to 240 watts of power delivery alone. This is perfect for a travel charger setup or using it with the Anker Prime charging station. This is an incredibly well-made cable that will hold up after use after use. It even has a cable tie for built-in organization. And of course it works with all of your USB to C devices from Apple stuff to portable gaming hardware. And it is USB IF certified. It comes in both a 3-foot and 6-foot option. I'm going to put some links in the description below to where you can go check out both of these products. I highly encourage you to do so. My thanks to Anker for sponsoring this video. Now, the other version of multitasking on the iPad is Stage Manager. Now, of the two multitasking systems, this is the one I personally prefer. This one is way more complex than Split View though. In fact, I did a whole 20-minute video just about the ins and outs and all the little details of how it works. I'm going to talk about the big overview stuff here, but I'll link to that video and everything else I mentioned in the description below, so if you want that full detail walkthrough, you can get it. Now, Stage Manager is limited to the 2018 iPad Pros or newer, or any of the iPad Airs with the M series chip. There are two big benefits to using Stage Manager. First is apps are in a window mode. They can be resized. You just drag the corner and you can resize the different windows. You can move them anywhere you want on the screen. And because of this feature, iPhone-only apps actually work really well on the iPad now. They're just floating windows. The second big benefit to using Stage Manager is it supports up to 4 windows in a stage, 2 more than the traditional split view option. But this is actually my biggest annoyance about iPadOS. This definitely feels like an artificial limit, especially considering the iPad Pro now has the M4 chip, and at the time of recording this, there are no Macs that have it, making it better and faster than all of the base Macs out there. I just wish this wasn't a limit. I don't see why this is a limit, but it is limited to 4 windows at a time. And I do say windows because if you open up another window from an app that you have open in that stage and you already have 4 windows in that app stage open, it will kick out the one that you haven't used recently. With Stage Manager, if you just regularly tap or click on an app, it'll open it up in a new independent stage. With Stage Manager, you can drag and drop apps though from the app library, the dock, or Spotlight, and it'll add it to the current stage, just like you can with Split View. But if you have a keyboard and trackpad attached, you can either shift click or shift tap on an app and it will add it to your current stage. With Stage Manager, just like with Split View, you can long swipe up from the bottom to get all of your recent apps that you've been using, the multitasking view. Now, what's strange though in this view is you can't add apps to a different stage. Seems like a natural place to be able to manage your different stages. With Stage Manager, there are 2 pieces of UI that stay constant on the screen as long as you don't cover them up with any app windows. First is the Stage Strip. This is where 4 of your most recent app stages live. You can jump between them quickly by just selecting them. You can also drag and drop apps out of one stage into another if you wish. I actually hide this strip while I'm using this. If you go into Settings, Multitasking, you can then hide this feature. You can swipe in from the right side or push your cursor into that side to reveal the strip if you wish. It's not really something I use often, and I would rather have that extra UI space to put apps up and give me a little more space like if I'm putting 2 apps side by side. The second UI element in Stage Manager is the dock. I like this. I have my dock set up with my most used apps. This way I can quickly add them to my current stage. One change I did make to my dock is I turned off the recent apps section. This gives you an extra 3 spots to put more apps in your dock. And on the 13-inch iPad Pro, this means I can have up to 20 icons in my dock. Now, in both multitasking modes, you can actually swipe across the bottom edge to jump between your most recent apps, stages, or split view. Now, it may seem a little weird that there are 2 multitasking systems on the iPad, and it might be a little daunting to pick one or the other in which you want to use, but it's actually pretty simple. It boils down to if you use your iPad with a keyboard and trackpad a lot. If you do use your iPad with a keyboard and trackpad, Stage Manager is going to be your best bet because it's a lot easier to manage between shift clicking on apps to add it to your current stage or using the cursor to move things around and resize apps. It's just a lot easier to manage that way. But if you mostly use your iPad in tablet mode, meaning no keyboard, no trackpad attached, split view is the way to go. But if you want to bounce back and forth between the two, you can actually add the Stage Manager toggle to Control Center so you can just turn it on and off very quickly. Now, if you have an M-series iPad Pro or iPad Air, you can actually have proper external monitor support. If you have any other iPad, you can still plug it into a monitor, but it just mirrors what you have on the iPad. It doesn't extend the display. By using the proper external monitor support, you can get another 4 windows on the external monitor in combination with the 4 windows that are on your iPad display. So you can have a total of up to 8 app windows open at a time. The thing with the external monitor support, though, is you have to keep the iPad's display on. There is no clamshell mode, which is a bummer. Now, one thing I get asked about a lot is how do you change the audio? Once you plug in your iPad to a monitor, it will default to your monitor speakers. And for most monitors out there, that's not good because monitor speakers aren't great. So you can go into Control Center and tap on the AirPlay button for the Now Playing widget in Control Center. From here, you can change from your monitor speakers to an audio interface, desktop speakers, or even headphones. But the one thing you can't do that's really weird is go back to the iPad speakers. The iPad speakers are really good, and I don't quite get why you can't go back to those. Spotlight can be used for launching more than just apps. You can quickly search for documents in the Files app. You can also search for content in apps like Drafts or Notes. You can use Spotlight for unit conversions as well, inches to centimeters, Fahrenheit to Celsius, and more. There is also natural language calendar input for the built-in calendar app as well. What's weird is this is not a feature in the calendar app. This is just in Spotlight. You can also set timers and set alarms as well. And if you're somebody that uses focus modes, you can toggle a focus right from Spotlight as well. You can toggle settings like Bluetooth, airplane mode, display zoom, cellular, and more. You can also run shortcuts right from Spotlight as well. If your shortcut uses the Get On-Screen action, this method will work with that action as well. In accessibility, audio and video, there are options to turn on background sounds. This is stuff like white noise, rain sounds, ocean, streams. In iOS and iPadOS 18, Apple added night and fire sounds as well. This is meant for people with tinnitus, but it works great for people that need to focus as well. You can add the ability to toggle these right to Control Center. You can then long press on this control and change either the sound or the volume. Now, these background sounds actually work independently from the audio system, which this means is if you are watching a video or you're playing music, you can still have these going in the background. What's great is, so if I was to start watching a quick video or something, these will keep going. It's not going to pause, so I don't have to go back in and turn them back on after the video finishes. In Settings, General, iPad Storage, you can see how much storage is being used. In here, you can manage the storage of the device. This includes stuff stored locally, apps, and the contents of the apps. If you want to delete an app right from Settings, you can just swipe to the left on it and just tap Delete. In Settings, General, Keyboard, Text Replacement, you can set up shortcuts for words or phrases. For example, I use the triple @ sign to insert my email, a double £sign and 1 for my phone number, and triple A's for my address. Now, iPadOS usually does a really good job of detecting when I need to insert my phone number or email address, but it's not always perfect. So I like having these shortcuts, especially if I'm like emailing somebody and I need to insert that info. It's really nice just to have that there. In Settings, General, Trackpad, I speed up the sensitivity of the cursor. By default, Apple's trackpads are always just really sluggish to me, so I just speed it up a little bit. Under Accessibility, Pointer Controls, I enable the Highlight Cursor feature. Now, I just set mine to white. I find the default gray to kind of fade in, especially with dark mode apps quite a bit, and on an external monitor, it can just get lost. So just having that extra ring around that just makes it really easy to quickly, okay, it's right there, I see it, and move on. Now, one of the most important features I make sure is disabled is auto lock. I cannot stand my computer being locked after 5, 15, 30 minutes, whatever. Especially if I'm doing something like editing video or even rendering video, you especially don't want your iPad locking then. I turn this off under Settings, Display and Brightness. Now, I usually either have a smart cover or the Magic Keyboard attached, so when you close those up, they automatically lock your iPad, so it's really not that big of a deal that this is disabled. I still don't hit the lock button very much. Another feature I disable under display is night mode and true tone. Because I do a lot of color grading work, I don't want my iPad showing me false colors. Another setting I change here under display and brightness is the display zoom feature. By default, this runs at, well, default, but I changed this to more space. This runs your iPad at a higher resolution, so you're able to fit more content on the screen. Now, for undoing or redoing something system-wide, you can obviously hit Command-Z to undo or Command-Shift-Z to redo. But in tablet mode, you obviously don't have a keyboard attached, so you don't have those. Anywhere on the screen, you can 3-finger tap, and it'll give you the undo and redo menu, so you can just undo, redo right from there. This also brings up cut, copy, and paste options as well. Under settings and sounds, I make sure the silent mode is always on. I don't like this feature where if I get a call, I have 3 different devices ringing at me. It's just too much. So the way I think about this is if I'm using my iPad, I'm sitting down with it, it's obviously unlocked. If somebody calls me and I have my headphones in, I can just answer it right from there because I'll visually see the notification, even though the iPad won't be making sounds. I don't need that. But if I'm not using my iPad and somebody calls me, my Apple Watch will buzz me or I'll have my phone next to me and I can just answer it right then and there. I'm not going to go grab my iPad to answer a call for that. It just doesn't make any sense to have that kind of sounds on. Focus is an incredible feature. You can use it to block distracting notifications, change wallpapers, or put apps in specific states. Now, I use all 3 of these features with different focus modes, but I want to focus on, well, focus filters right now. First and third-party apps offer a ton of different things you could do with this. For example, I use Fantastical's calendar set feature to jump between a bunch of calendar sets. The most important one is I have a filming focus. So I have it set up to Fantastical to show me all of my calendars but my secrets. This way I don't accidentally leak embargoes or something like that. But you could also use this to turn off your work calendar when you're home or turn off your personal calendar when you're at work. I have a writing focus, and in here I have a focus filter for turning off the Apple Music history learning feature. So this way, if I'm listening to something in Apple Music, it's not learning that whether I like that or not from this. Because when I'm writing, I like to listen to a lot of music that doesn't have lyrics. Lyrics are distracting to me, and I just can't focus with that. So I don't want Apple Music thinking that's the kind of music I want to listen to when I'm in my car or listening through HomePods or something like that. So I use Safari profiles for personal and work stuff as well. So I have some accounts that are different when I'm logged into doing personal stuff and when I'm logged into doing work stuff. And with Safari profiles, you can quickly jump between those very easily. So whatever focus filter I'm in, whether it's personal or a work one, it'll pull up the right Safari profile. Let's talk about the Magic Keyboard for a second. I actually think this is one of the most important accessories you can have if you have an iPad Pro or an iPad Air, especially because it doesn't have a battery in it, so it doesn't add a bunch of extra weight. But there's some things that you could do with it that are really interesting. On a keyboard, you can hold down the globe key to see all the system-wide keyboard shortcuts. You can also hold down the command key to see all of the specific keyboard shortcuts for the app that you have opened. If you're typing, you can hit the globe key to bring up the emoji keyboard. But if you're using a keyboard that isn't the Magic Keyboard or doesn't have Apple's globe key, you could actually go into Settings, General Keyboard, Hardware Keyboard, and in here you could actually change out one of the system keys to be a globe key. Personally, I set a lot of my mechanical keyboards so that the caps lock is a globe key. Another thing that you could do with any keyboard attached to an iPad is double tap Control to enable dictation. Now, on the new Magic Keyboard, there's actually a dedicated dictation button. And if you hold that dictation button down, it will actually trigger Siri while using your iPad. And if you have the new iPadOS 18.1 installed with Apple Intelligence, you can hit Globe S to get Type to Siri. Now, I'm not much of an artist. I can't draw to save my life, but there are some stuff I use the Apple Pencil for, and mostly it's for marking up PDF documents and signing contracts. The built-in preview app right when you open any PDF document does a decent job. It gives you all the pencil kit tools right there. And one of the features that is in this default pencil kit toolset is you can store your signatures, so you can just quickly add it to any document and resize it. I also use the highlight tool quite a bit to just highlight things in a PDF document, so that way if it's like a brief or something like that, I can just have it right up while I'm taking my notes. So that's it. Those are my tips for using iPadOS. I want to hear from you all some tips that you use for like system level iPadOS stuff. I'm going to do a whole video about tips for the apps that I use as well. Not just necessarily the apps that are on my iPad, but the tips that I use to make them work for me. My thanks to Anker for sponsoring this video. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe if you haven't already, and have a great day.